Hi, this is Dave again from Telemediator. And one of the questions we get a lot is how to do a negotiation. Now, I personally have negotiated over 1,000 different types of transactions: business deals, real estate deals, civil litigation, mediations, many of them in the millions of dollars of transactions. And there's a few very common traits that goes into being successful in a negotiation. And it's not always about the numbers or the figures or being more powerful or more of a bully. It has to do with getting to what is the hot button of the other side. And many times people go to a negotiation trying to force the other side to do something or thinking it's a confrontation. Negotiation and confrontations are two different things. So in this video, we're going to talk about 3 different very successful techniques you can use in a negotiation, whether it's a small negotiation, maybe with one of your kids to get them to clean their room, or a big negotiation on a business deal, or somewhere in between that many consumers do every single day, like buying a car or maybe an appliance. The important thing to do in a negotiation is not to think you have to talk more or convince somebody. A person is already convinced to do what you want them to do. You just have to draw that out of them. So in many cases, the technique you want to start with is by asking questions. If you notice, if you deal with any person or company that's professional at negotiation, for example, a car dealership, they're going to start out not by starting to show you the car and what's good about the car and the price. They're going to ask you questions. How are you going to use the car? How many people in your family? How many miles a year do you drive? What kind of car do you have now? They're going to ask you lots and lots of questions. That's part of the negotiation. You may not think the negotiation has started yet, but in reality, that is the negotiation. And you can do the same thing. If you have certain goals you're trying to achieve in a negotiation, for example, price, you want to get to a certain price point. Maybe it's delivery. How fast can you get it? Maybe it's a certain type of product. You want a certain color of a product or a certain package of equipment. You first want to find out what is important to the other side before you start talking about what's important to you. Because if you can find out what's important to the other side, you can offer that in exchange. There's your negotiation. And some of the things that you can exchange aren't something that really costs you money. In a negotiation, a lot of times people will think, I'll split the difference. You're giving something up. If somebody says it costs $10,000 and you want to pay $8,000, you say I'll pay $9,000, you split the difference. You just gave away $1,000 that you might not want to have to give away. And the other side might not be happy either because they might not want to go down to $9,000 without something that's in it for them, really. So specifically, how do you go about doing that? Well, the first thing you do is start asking questions of the person you're dealing with. Even if you're looking to buy a car at a dealership, you can start asking that salesperson, that manager, how soon do you want to sell a car? When do you have your best deals? What is the car you want to sell the most? What do you benefit from this? Ask them questions about their scenario, just like they're asking you about yours. And that way, when it comes down to getting pricing, you can say, well, you mentioned before that you wanted to sell a car by the end of the month. If I bought it today, what would be the price? Always ask questions. And if you can ask more questions than the other side, you'll be in way better shape because you will be controlling the narrative. And you don't have to be confrontational, right? You don't have to say, no, I don't want to do that, or you don't have to reject it, or you don't have to be defensive about what they're offering. You can just ask questions and let them tell you how to get the best deal. Also, it will help you know what to offer the other side. If you just start randomly throwing out things that you're offering, every time you offer something, you're giving something away that you could keep for yourself. And you may have to give away 5 things to get to the one that really is important to that person. The other 4 things, they might not really need. You're just giving it away for free. And the one thing they need, if you knew what that was and only gave them that one, you would still have more things that you're retaining: money, offerings, trades, timing, everything else, and only give them one thing that's important to them. So you want to find out what those important things are. If it's a salesperson you're dealing with, how many widgets do you sell a month? Are you the top salesperson in your business? How many do you have sold for this month? Oh, so I can help you get to your goal. What can I do to make that better for you, right? So ask those questions depending on your environment. What if it's a lower level negotiation with maybe a family member or a friend or a colleague? Can you bring me to the airport? Well, I'm really not sure. It's a busy day. Well, what things are important to you that you want to get done? Maybe I can help you rake the lawn, or I can do something else. Again, you don't want to necessarily have to give away something. You want to find out what's important to the other person, or make it easy for the other person. Even if it's a ride to the airport, maybe they could bring you 2 hours earlier than you really need to go if it fits their schedule more than having to go at a certain time, and that might make it better for you. Negotiating with your kids, clean your room. Obviously, you could just tell the kid, hey, you got to clean your room or you're grounded, but you don't want to create confrontation. You'd rather have it be more facilitated. How do you do that? You ask them, well, what is the thing you're looking forward to most this week? Well, I really wanted to go to the park and go skateboarding on Friday. Great. I think we can definitely make that happen. But how about in the meantime that you pick up these 4 things? So you're not necessarily making it a quid pro quo, even though it is. You're just doing it in a way that is more consultative, where you're working with them. That's the whole premise of a negotiation or a mediation. A mediation is a form of negotiation. It's 2 sides that are this far apart in their head that have to get together on some type of an agreement. Usually, I shouldn't say usually, almost all the time, when we do a negotiation or mediation, the clients are actually already in agreement on 99% of the items. It may be 1 or 2 sticking points that seems like it makes a big wide gap between what they need to do. And they may not even realize how close together they are. Sometimes it's pride, it's ego, it's the fact that they've been insulted and they have defensiveness. Sometimes a third party in between can help. But if you don't have that third party, because it's not that... Your video will be back in 8 seconds. In the meantime, remember, you have access to live one-on-one consultation, undivided attention of a licensed certified expert in this subject and many others. We want to listen to your story. We want to hear your questions and give you expert advisement of your options. We want to tell you what we know about your situation and what options you have. Now back to your video. Big of a deal, and you have to do it yourself. Take away some of the animosity. Maybe they are upset because you insulted them or you did something offensive to them. If you steer away from that, maybe even offer an apology, sometimes you can get back some of the things that you're trying to negotiate from that counterparty. Last but not least, what if you're down to a negotiation and there's a big sticking point that doesn't seem like you can get past? Maybe it's a big difference in price, right? Maybe it's you're buying a business for $5 million and they want $6 million and you can only be stuck at 5. At any given time, don't be afraid to do small walkaways. This is a very effective technique. And say, well, based on where we're at right now, I'm not sure if this is going to be the next thing that I'm going to commit to. You're not saying no. You're not saying, I don't want to do it. You're not rejecting them. Because sometimes if you reject somebody, even if they would have a little bit of negotiation, if you draw a line in the sand and say, no, I'm not doing it, now sometimes they dig in their heels and they get defensive. But if you leave it open-ended to say, well, I understand you want 6 million, makes sense. I get what you're saying, but I don't know that right now, if it's at 6 million, that this would be the next investment I'm going to make in a business. So it tells a couple stories. First of all, it says that you're not saying no because you're incapable of doing it. Sometimes people will do what's called sour grapes, which is an old Aesop's fable that says if you lose something, you say, oh, the other person couldn't have done it anyway. You kind of make up a story that it wasn't you, it's them. So if you just say I can't afford it or I'm not paying it, the other side can say, well, they couldn't afford it anyway, so I didn't lose anything. It saves their own internal pride. But if you say, well, I'm not sure if at 6 million, this will be the next investment I make. Let me get back to you. Let me think about it. Let me talk to you in a few days. And then you can ghost them for more than the time you said you would. What that does is it tells the person you're capable of doing it. In fact, when you say it's not going to be the next thing I do, that implies you are going to do things. Maybe you're going to take another deal. Maybe they don't want to lose your deal because they're planning on doing something with the money and they're kind of hung up on that price. Once you let them stew on it and mull it over in their head a little bit, if you're selling a business for $6 million and you have it stuck in your head you're getting $6 million, and all of a sudden that is taken away from you, well, you know what? $5 million doesn't sound that bad anymore. Maybe you are planning on, buying a house or going on vacation or retiring or putting money in the bank. And you might say, well, $5 million, I could still do this. It gives them a few days to reconstruct their future plans for what they were going to get from you, whether it's $6 million for a business or $10,000 for a car or $10 for a pair of shoes, whatever it is. If you take it away from them a little bit, what their built up plans were, you're letting them reconstruct their expectations in their head rather than you trying to do it. If you try to chop them down, now they're going to get defensive. They're going to fight back against you. If you just backpedal from it in a way that says, you might lose this deal, right? I'm willing to work with you, but you might lose the deal. Tell them you'll get back to them in a few days. After 3 days, don't be in a rush to call them back. Let them stew on it. If you do want this deal, whatever it is, and you want to chase it, that's fine. But wait 6 days or 7 days to say, look, I'm still kind of have this in my head. I'm not sure if it's a thing I want to do. Have you had any other thoughts about this transaction? You're not going to ask them, did you come down on price? Can you sell it for less? Do you do the 5,000 or 5 million? Ask them, have you had any other thoughts? Because the answer is going to be yes. You never want to ask a question that the answer is no. If you ask them, will you sell it for 5 million? They're going to say no, or they could say no. If you ask them, can you reduce the price? They could say no, I'm stuck at 6 million. If you ask them, have you had any other thoughts on this transaction? Of course they had thoughts. They've been thinking about it for 6 days. They've been imagining what they're going to spend 6 million on, or 5 million, or 5.5 million. They've had many thoughts on it. So if you ask them, have you had any other thoughts? Again, you're asking a question to get them to start spilling their guts and be transparent about their conscious ideas. And that might paint a picture of how you could do the deal. What they might say is, well, I was thinking about that I don't need all the money right away. And the other thing you can ask is, what are you going to do with the money if you sell it for 6 million? If they say, I'm going to put it in the bank, you might say, well, what if you didn't get all the money right away? Maybe we could pay over time. The money's in the bank of the business. There's a lot of things you can do, but you can't do that unless you know specifically what it is the other side is thinking. So asking that question, have you had any thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on this fact? That will help get inside their head to know what they're thinking. It's almost like reading the playbook of the other team. And you can use that to your advantage of structuring a transaction, whether it's a $6 million business or a $10 pair of shoes or getting your kid to eat their breakfast before they go play outside. They're all things you can do by asking questions. Obviously, you don't need to overdo it if it's a small thing like getting somebody to do their chores, but it's the same theory, the same process. And if you get in the habit of doing it all the time, when it comes to a larger transaction, you can have the skills already built up that make it easier for you to have it be a natural conversation rather than a fight where two people are arguing over the same thing. If you do need help with any particular transaction, a negotiation, a mediation, you can click the link below. We could do a few things. We could step in as a third-party neutral mediator. We can counsel you individually, one-on-one, to give you suggestions and tips and pointers on exactly how to structure your deal, how to ask questions, how to even think of creative ways to work with the other side to get what you want and still have them get what they want. A lot of people call that win-win. I don't believe in win-win. I want to win. I don't care if the other side wins, right? Especially if it's a one-time transaction. If it's a long-term arrangement, yeah, you want to do win-win to keep that relationship going. But if it's a one-time transaction, who cares if the other side doesn't get as much as they wanted to? It's all about you in a one-sided transaction. Of course, you want to be nice and courteous and not burn bridges and not hurt people, but you don't want to also be a charity where you're giving something away unless you voluntarily want to do it. We're glad to have a chance to talk to you. If you do have questions, let us know in the link below, and you can access all of our resources, and even talk to a certified civil and family court mediator and negotiator directly. Thank you for watching another video at actualhuman.com and describe.tv. Remember, if you have questions or comments about our videos, put them in the link below. Also, remember that you have availability and access to live one-on-one question and answer consultation with a licensed expert in a number of fields: investigations, insurance, surety bonds, civil court mediation, even things like real estate records research, real estate brokers, real estate mortgage lenders. In addition, you're going to find that experts are available in business segments, business development, marketing, advertising, certified licensed experts. So if you do find this content valuable and you want to delve more deeply into a subject, you can't ask YouTube a question, right? But if you want to talk to somebody live, an actual human, use the link below. Thanks for watching.